friends, this is Grace and welcome to my channel and welcome to another layout from me. This is going to be the first layout in this mini series that I'm doing. Basically, I have this card kit and I'm turning the materials from the card kit into materials to use for a scrapbook page. So with this one, I'm actually basing it off of a sketch, and this is going to be a scrapbook generation sketch. And one of the things that I was particularly paying attention to when I was looking for inspiration to use for this set of products was that I knew that because it's a card kit, a lot of the materials, especially the papers, are going to be smaller in nature. And so I was picking some sketches that would lend itself really well for smaller elements, smaller design. And so that's what I am using here. I have a bunch of photos from a little trip that we took. So I believe it was 2022, we went to Missouri because my daughter was doing a girls wrestling camp over there. And while she was at the wrestling camp, me and my husband and my youngest son, we were touring the place. And so one of the things that we discovered was this really cute museum. It was like a county museum, and it was I think it was free to go in there. I can't remember, but it was not very expensive, but we saw a lot of things, and there was a exhibit that was full of just history from that area. They had a display of a bunch of wedding dresses from different people and in different eras. And then they had a display of art. And then outside they had some, like really old buildings that have a lot of history to them. And it was in the grounds of the museum. Anyways, this particular layout will cover the area where they had artwork. And I am a big fan of artwork. I used to be an art teacher for 4 years. And so that was something that I really like to, I just appreciate art a lot more, especially now after being an art teacher for elementary for a while. And yes, no, I don't teach anymore. I have changed. I still work at a district, but I am in a different capacity now. Yes, I do miss teaching sometimes, but not all the time. If you are a teacher, you know, right? Anyways, going back to the layout, one of the things that I have realized with this card kit is that although it is chock full of products, the one thing that will not lend itself easily with scrapbook layouts is I needed a background paper for sure, and then I still needed some bigger pieces. And so this pattern paper that I got, I pulled that out from my 12 by 12 paper stash, and I thought it was a good enough background piece where it has some pattern there, but it's subtle enough that it's not going to take away from what I am trying to create here. Now, I have most of my photos are the horizontal kind, but then I do have 4 that are vertical. And so I'm just kind of moving things around. Yes, some of them are connected because when I print my pictures, I usually order them in 4x6. I just find that it's cheaper because it's a very common size. And so I have an app on my phone where I can combine, like I can make collages. I used to do them in Adobe Photoshop, but I decided that I did not use my Photoshop enough for me to warrant having to pay for the subscription. I had Photoshop a long time ago when I was a photographer, but now that I'm not, I just felt like it was time for me to give that up. And because of that, then I went and transitioned to just a free collage app. I can't even remember what it is, but I would just go on there and just basically merge 2 pictures into a 4x6. And of course, it's going to make your images like it's not going to be the true image like if you were to print it as 4 by 6, and I understand that. But in my scrapbooking, I just feel like I'm okay with like giving up some of the size of the image. And if it's really like something important to me that I really wanted to be a true 4 by 6, then I will print them at that size and not have to make them smaller. But I am also the kind of scrapbooker that the more pictures I have on my layout, the happier I am, because there's a lot more of the story that I'm able to tell with my pictures that I wouldn't be able to if I had way too many big sizes of photos. Okay, so one of my favorite things about this layout that I'm creating and the design that I'm working with is that I could build 3 different clusters of embellishments, and then I could layer all of these elements that I got from the card kit. And I think that's the best way of using up these kinds of kits, especially for scrapbooking, is that because they are smaller in nature, the elements, I'm sorry, is smaller in nature, then you can definitely use that as your embellishments. Like you don't need to pull out embellishments from your stash if you have all of these little elements that you can use. So now I am finishing up like the background piece. What I actually did before I turned on the camera was I splattered some black ink on some of the parts of the white cardstock. I just felt like it was too stark of a white. But as you can see, I'm ending up covering them anyways. And so that was kind of a unneeded or unnecessary part, but I still like the effect that there's that artsy effect in that layout. And then what I did was I cut out the papers. They are actually like the 4.5 by 5.5 kind of pieces that was supposed to be the card fronts for the cards that you were going to make. So I cut them up into strips of 1.5 by, I want to say like 3 inches. And then I cut the ends of it into fishtails to make, or banner tails, I should say, to make the vertical papers that look like they're actually a full paper, but they're actually not. They're just, cut up and kind of connected to the middle piece so that they look like they're one whole piece there. And then I did have a part of this collage of photos that I have on the left that I'm missing 1 3x4. So instead of finding another photo or something, I just cut out one of the card fronts, and then that's going to be like holding that place, and then I'm going to try to find some embellishments. So I don't know if you noticed, but in the beginning of this layout, I had a 4th vertical photo, and it was a piano, a grand piano. The grand piano was displayed with the art, but for some reason, like when I'm looking at the art in the pictures that I chose to document, the wood of the piano just doesn't seem like it matched the other themes of the photos that I had. So I decided to forego the piano. I believe I can use the piano in a different layout, and that's fine. There are times where you can't fit all the photos in your memory on your layout, so sometimes you just gotta pick and choose. But I am happy with the photos that I use. There's a combination of just the display of photos on the wall, and then some close-ups, and then also a couple of pictures, or a few pictures of me and my son. They had an area in the display, or in the area where they had the art, where you can make your own art. And so we took some papers and did some drawing, and it was fun. Anyways, so here I am going back to putting my my triangle, and I'm trying to. So the yay, in my mind, I was going to use that as part of my title, and then also the banner. But I'm actually, as you're working on this, as you work on your layouts, you can kind of see which ones work, which ones not, and that's another reason why I don't adhere anything until I want to commit to it. Like I like the idea of moving things around before I can say, okay, this is really where I want that element to go. And I decided to go with the lined circle over to the right. As you can see, I'm layering things there. That's going to house my journaling for this particular layout. And I love that it already has the lines, so I don't have to worry about that. And then I did have that grid blue paper and blue circle rather, and I cut some parts of that because I'm just going to tuck that in, and then I ended up using the other side of the circle for the visual triangle that I am going for. So there's going to be 3 different like circle shapes and on the layout, and then they're going to be my visual triangle here. Another thing that I am like doing is I'm just kind of layering things around. Again, these are smaller elements for the card kit that I am just kind of moving. And I know some of these will just be covered anyways, but I like that there are a lot of layers to this layout. And then they also, even if it's just a little bit here and there, they add some texture, they add some color and some design peeking through. So that's kind of fun. And then I love how this card kit actually have some brushes, and it worked really well for this particular layout of a more artsy kind of documenting. And then I also added some flowers over there just because I felt like it might be fun to add that. Now, this card kit had a combination of paper elements as well as chipboard elements. So some of them already has some weight to it if I'm adding some chipboard, and then some are just flat. And I like that. I actually I lean towards like flat elements nowadays, because when when you stack 20, 30 layouts in an album and they're very chunky, they tend to warp the whole entire album, and I really don't like that anymore. And plus I can fit more pages if they tend to be a little bit flatter. Now I do have that happy word that's been cut out from my silhouette. I just use a script font and then just cut out a bunch of more or less generic words that would be used for a lot of layouts. And so this one is going to say happy, and then I'm going to use that tiny type from Cosmo Cricket and going to finish off the title, which would eventually say happy art exhibit, no, something. I can't remember. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to like do all of my voiceovers, and I'm running out of brain power, I guess. But that is basically the layout. I do have some close-ups here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye now.